Hello, everyone, and welcome live to Woodhouse Community Hall for the third of our community archaeological digs taking place across Charnwood Forest this spring and summer. Thank you very much for joining us. Over the next an hour and a half, we're going to bring you some of the most significant finds that have been made across the parish this weekend. We're going to be taking you live to some of those test pits to show you what's been happening. We've got Finds Cam set up, so we'll be able to show you some of the things after they've been cleaned as well. Thank you for joining us. And of course, if you have any questions on this, you can put them in the chat if you are joining us on YouTube. And if you're joining us on Facebook, you can put it as a comment at the bottom. I will see it and I will try and answer your question, but more likely our many archaeological experts who are joining us helping this event and will hopefully join us on the live stream will be able to answer your questions. Fingers crossed. So we're in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, the third of our archaeological digs. We started off in Newtown, Limford. We then moved across to Stanton under Barden, and now we are in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. What's been happening this weekend is community archaeological digs, test pitting. So scattered across the two villages here, people have very kindly offered up their gardens for the digging of test pits. And these test pits are 1 metre square. And you dig down, often 10 centimetres at a time, and see what you can find. Now, you might think 1 metre square, that's a relatively small area. How are you going to find anything digging such a small area? But, ladies and gentlemen, you will see over the next 90 minutes all the amazing things that you can find digging such a small area. Now, this weekend, we're very grateful to the more than 100, I think we're almost around 150 volunteers that have been joining us to help offer up their gardens and also dig the test pits. People have come from around Charnwood Forest, from Leicestershire, and even further afield to be part of this very special event. And they've been digging down and finding all these amazing things. Then what's been happening is every 10 centimetres, sometimes called a spit or a context, you might hear our archaeologists using those words later, those finds all get bagged up and they come here. We've got a few people bringing the finds to Woodhouse Community Hall. In fact, let's rotate the camera. If I put my hand like that, the camera will follow me around and you might be able to see, I don't know how far around we can go, but we're in, I'm in the car park at Community Hall here in Woodhouse, and we're using the village hall as a washing station. So we've got tables set up and people are busy with little toothbrushes cleaning up those finds so that we can properly understand them. Now, to get going, before we take you live and show you any of the amazing finds that have been coming out, you might be asking, there are many, many villages in Charnwood Forest. Why have the Geopark and our dear partners at the University of Lincoln and the University of Leicester Archaeological Services, why choose Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves? And to answer that question, I had a chat with Carenza Lewis, Professor Carenza Lewis from the University of Lincoln a little bit earlier today when she told me, what is it that we might be expecting to find and why choose these villages for this project? So Carenza, thank you for joining us again for the third of our community digs here in Charnwood Forest Geopark with the University of Lincoln and ULAS. But the question to start off is, of all the villages to choose, why choose Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves for these community archaeological digs?
Well, it's a really good question because we spent a lot of the first sort of month really that we were on this project trying to decide which villages to dig in, and obviously we're at Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves here now, but we've also done the digging in Stanton under Barden and Newtown Linford, and what we wanted to do was get villages that were in different bits of the landscape. So Newtown Linford and Stanton under Barden are a bit more on the edge of Charnwood. Here we're much more into the centre of it really. Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves are both very interesting. it's complex doing 2 villages in one go, so we're doing the test pits. We've got 10 test pits in Woodhouse and 25 or so in Woodhouse Eaves, all at the same time, and they're quite a distance apart, so it's quite a big logistical challenge. But we felt we couldn't do one without the other. Neither of the villages are recorded in Domesday Book, and the name, obviously Woodhouse, it suggests there's a house in the wood, that's where the name has come from, but it doesn't sound very big. We did some digging at Bowman Hall a few years ago on the edge of Woodhouse and found no medieval pottery there at all. So we wanted to come back here and see if we could find any trace of medieval Woodhouse, because it is recorded in the documents from the 13th century. So we know we've got hints of somebody living in those houses in the wood. And we found relatively little medieval pottery in Stanton-under-Bardon or Newtown-Linford when we did the test pitting there. So it will be very interesting to see if we get any more or any less from Woodhouse. We know nothing about its archaeology. We know there was been some prehistoric finds from here. There's Roman stuff in the area. We know the Romans were using the forest, but not from in the village here. So we know nothing about Woodhouse at all. And then we didn't want to do Woodhouse without doing Woodhouse Eaves, because that's the bigger village today. But it'd be interesting to see, is Woodhouse Eaves bigger in the past than Woodhouse, or was it the other way around, and when did it change? So those are all the sorts of questions we're interested in answering.
There we go. There was Professor Carenza Lewis of Time Team fame, helping us out this weekend, helping to lead the project. As I say, we're very grateful to the University of Lincoln and ULAS for all their help and leadership and expertise on this very exciting project. Now I can see that we are joined live, and I'm going to bring her into the stream. Hopefully now, let's see if the tech works. Hello, Susan Kilby.
How are you doing?
Now, fantastic. Thank you for joining us live. Susan, many of you may remember that Dr. Susan Kilby, our former education officer at the Geopark, today joining us as a volunteer, but handily, she is also a medieval landscape historian. So she's got a lot of expertise to bring. And today and yesterday, she was digging on Test Pit 12. Susan, tell us what's been happening at Test Pit 12.
Well, it's been really exciting, Jack. We're here at Woodhouse Eaves. We're in the heart of the village. And we've had lots of really exciting finds. So yesterday we found a nice slate roof tile with a nail hole through the middle, which was fabulous. We've got all sorts of lovely bits of glazed pot, lots of bits of brick and tile. But the really exciting thing, I'm going to turn my camera around in a minute so you can have a look. We've actually got the footings of a building in our test pit that we uncovered today. So we've gone down now to about 60-70 centimeters, and if I spin round, you are going to you're going to see hopefully Ashley in the test pit, and there's his mum Crystal, and I'm hoping that you can see that Ashley is standing on a big layer of slate, and then if you look at his left foot, you can see that he's standing on, his foot is on 2 courses of bricks. That's as far as we've got. And we think that this is perhaps a small outbuilding. And Matt Morris has been around and had a look, and it's really, really hugely exciting. And I think the other thing we want to show you, if we can, is, I think Crystal's going to talk about this. We found a nice a glass bottle stopper. So yeah, over to you, Crystal.
Just a quick one. Ashley's just picked this out.
This is live. Wow, look at that. Look at that. It does. Yeah, it's some sort of ball. Is it a musket ball? Is it I don't know, a gaming piece? We'll find out from the archaeologists later. But take a look at this. This is really beautiful glass bottle stopper. What can you tell us about that, Crystal?
So I've had a look online, and it is a glass bottle stop from Gibson Garter. I can't remember his name. Jeremy Gibson Garter. Gartons from Nottingham, and it also shows that it's probably from a HP bottle source, so similar to what we know nowadays. But Matthew was saying he was possibly the original maker of HP bottle source, so quite nice and local. Nottingham, not too far away, but it's a lovely piece to find with a name in it, fully intact.
Yeah,
so that would be
fabulous.
Quite cool to find out.
So a bit of local history there, Jack, for you. HP Source, they apparently had the original patent for HP Source, so that's one of our favourite finds today.
Fantastic, and a fine choice of source by the former people of Woodhouse Eaves.
Absolutely.
Any particular favourite finds yourself from today?
We found a really nice cartridge cap, so that was quite nice too. We've had quite a few nice little bits of glazed pot again, but I think, to be honest, it's hard to beat that beautiful HP Source cap, to be honest. We're incredibly lucky that it came out whole, didn't get damaged in the process. So, this has been overall a really exciting test pit. We're delighted with everything over here at Test Pit 12.
Excellent. And just for everyone watching, can you put into context, have you got any sense of the dates of those finds? Did we get a date? Do we know a rough date for our HP bottle? And perhaps what's the oldest thing you've found?
Well, the HP bottle stopper, we think, is late 19th, early 20th century. We are probably at about that kind of level, even though we've gone down, quite a long way. We're still really getting mostly modern material out. Lots and lots of it, but mostly modern material. So I think, we need to really wait for some of the finds specialists to have a look at the pottery that we've got, but most of it seems to be around that period. I think yesterday we had a bit of panchamware, which we were told might be 17th century, but it could be anywhere up to the 20th century. So I think we found a beer bottle top as well. Bottle top seems to be the order of the day today.
Yeah.
So, but we're having lots of fun and finding this, this enormous feature. I'll just let you have another quick look at it, and hopefully you can see there.
And Susan, I can run us through what's your you've got a little bit of time left at the community dig here. What's your team's plan for the remaining time now you've found this amazing feature?
So you can probably see that we've excavated around the footings and we've got this patch of soil. And that's what we really are now going to try and go down a little bit deeper, just to see if we can see how far we get for the brick coursing. See if there's another layer of bricks to see whether we've got to the bottom of this building, just to see if it provides any further clues as to what this building might have been. We've got another feature in the test pit here that I hope you can see. That it's a metal pipe, and for a long time we were thinking, well, is it a water pipe? Is it a gas pipe? But actually, I don't know whether you can see that as you get to the bottom, you get sort of indentations, which does seem to suggest to me that it's actually the base of a rotary washing line, or maybe even just a pole for a fixed washing line. But anyway, not perhaps quite as exciting as a water pipe, but that has revealed itself to us as we've gone down through the layers. So.
Well, it's all helpful in explaining the story of the people of Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. Thank you to Susan, and thank you to all the team at Test Pit 12. Maybe if you've still got time and you find something else, feel free to join us again. But for the moment, a big thank you to Susan and Test Pit 12.
Our pleasure, Jack. Thanks very much.
So, just a reminder, that was Dr. Susan Kilby there on Test Pit 12. I should have explained, Test Pit 12 is just a few houses down from the, for those of you that know Woodhouse Eaves, a few houses down from the pub on Main Street, or the Old Bull's Head. So that is that was where they were. Fantastic finds there, and always lovely to see some structure to the test pit. Already a fantastic example of how these small community volunteer-led test pits can help discover new things. You might think you're never going to hit anything with these small test pits, but the people of Charnwood Forest are showing, as so many people all around the world have, that test pits are a great opportunity both to engage people with archaeology, but also to make meaningful discoveries. And on that point, it's worth reiterating to everyone that all the finds are going to be brought together, cleaned up, and then our team, our friends at the University of Lincoln and ULAS, they're going to write it all up as a report, as they are doing for the other 2 community digs, so that this story can be properly recorded, become part of the known history of these parishes, and also, hopefully, so that some of the finds can be shared as well. And we're very much hoping that we can invite some of our colleagues back to Charnwood Forest to give some presentations when more is understood about these very interesting discoveries. Now, we are going to be seeing some finds in a moment, but we are not alone in just our volunteers here. We've got a very special group of volunteers who are joining us in Charnwood Forest today, and it might be a great opportunity for you, if you know anyone who is under the age of 16 who wants to get involved in archaeology, they can join the Young Archaeologists Club. And just the other side of the community hall here, we've had 2 very special test pits dug by the young people who've been joining us, and they have been finding some very interesting things. Earlier today, I had a chat with Professor Carenza Lewis, and she ran me through some of the very interesting things that the Young Archaeologists Club, or YAC as they're known, she's going to tell us what they've been finding this weekend. Well, as the volunteers, over 100 who've joined us in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, we've had the Young Archaeologists Club joining us to dig 2 test pits here near the community hall in Woodhouse, and they've been finding some amazing things. Carenza, can you give us a guide through what the kids have been finding this weekend?
Yeah, well, it's amazing. They've done really, really well, because you can see the sort of colour of the solid stuff to dig through, so it's been quite a challenge for them, and although it looks like they haven't got terribly deep, they've actually found some really interesting stuff. So this test pit here, for example, has got it's got about 5 sherds, 6 sherds medieval pottery there. It's going to be sort of dated, it's pre-Black Death, dating, so 1250, 1300, 1350, that sort of date. It's really important because actually we found very little medieval pottery from any of the test pits in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, and actually we found relatively little medieval pottery in the other 3 villages we've dug in as well. So Stunton under Baden and Newtown Linford, we also found very little medieval pottery. So the Young Archaeologists Club has actually found probably more medieval pottery than most of the rest of the test pits put together. And that's helping us put a really interesting bit of the jigsaw puzzle of the past of these villages into place, because we can see how many of the here also produce medieval pottery. If we get a bit of a concentration of 2 or 3 test pits together producing medieval pottery, then that starts to suggest we've got a little nucleated village core here. We won't know that until we've looked at all of the pottery. It's a lovely pit as well. They've got a little bit of Staffordshire slipware, so that's going to be about 300 years later than this medieval pottery, but that's sort of stuff that gets bought at market. It's made in Staffordshire near Stoke-on-Trent. So it's not just a pot that's been bought for cooking or for utilitarian purposes. It's not a pot that's got into the ground because it was bought when it was filled with something else and it's effectively, you know, a product. That's something somebody would have been bought because they wanted a nice ornamental plate or mug or cup or bowl. It's quite thin, I think it's probably a drinking cup. They wanted that in their home. It suggests that people with a little bit more money, the fact this medieval pottery is glazed, that suggests that's also a little bit more expensive than average. So a little bit of suggestion that this is a sort of posh bit of the medieval landscape here. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And they've done so well, the children, to get this much digging done. Young Archaeologists Club is a fantastic opportunity for people to get involved. Sort of children between the ages of about 8 and 16 can come along, join the activities every week, and then occasionally get chances to take part in real digs like this.
There you go. Fantastic finds by the young people there. And if you want to know more about that, do search online for Young Archaeologists Club in Leicestershire. You'll be able to find all the details. It's a fantastic group, and we're very pleased to have had them join us here in Charnwood Forest Geopark this weekend. Now we are going to be bringing you some finds. I'm hoping to take you live to one of our dig sites just a few meters behind me in a moment. But you might also be wondering, what is Charnwood Forest Geopark? What do we do here? Geo, because we love to celebrate geology, but the Geopark is here to celebrate so much more than that. Hence our work here to promote the archaeological digs. And at that point, we must say a huge thank you to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, who fund a huge amount of what we do in Charnwood Forest, including making us able to support and fund these community archaeological digs. Now, earlier in the year, we hosted a fantastic event at Bradgate Park, celebrating all of our history, but really focusing and shining a light on our 560 million year old fossils. And we've got a little review of that. If you missed Geopark in the dark, here's a little video to tell you more about what happened at Bradgate Park.
This evening, we are at Bradgate Park for our Geopark in the Dark event. Our Geopark in the Dark event is a chance for us to tell the amazing story of Charnwood Forest's globally important fossils and geology. So we're inviting the people from across the city and the county to come to Bradgate Park and discover that amazing story in the most fantastic possible way. In the 1950s, two local school children were here within Charnwood Forest, and they discovered a fossil that completely rewrote global history. We found out that the first complex animal life on Earth was here within Charnwood Forest over 500 million years ago. Most of the people in the city and the county do not understand that they had this amazing story under their feet. And so we're really excited to be able to tell that story in the most brilliant and...
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I think we had some issues with the connection there. We might bring you that video a little bit later. But first, I'm going to try something I haven't tried before. And we're going to try and take you live. I'm going to walk away from the camera now and take you with another camera to go and see a dig. So I'm going to have to slightly juggle here and hopefully not mess around with the audio. But let's put this camera in the stream. There we go. I'm now going to take and I'm now going to take that out of the stream. Let's see if this works. We're going live. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we go up and over into someone's garden. These are these. And we're going to join, I think this is Test Pit 6. Hello, Test Pit 6. Can we join you live on our live stream? So, do tell us your names live. I'm Russell. We got Russell. We got Luke. Isla. Alison. Anna. Tara. And what have we got here on Test Pit 6? Give us a quick guide of some of the things you've been finding.
So we're at about 44 centimetres And we just found, we just sort of dug it out now, but we did find a kind of post hole here. And we just found these really big stones, which we think could be quite significant.
We actually did just find a roof tile.
Roof tile with nail.
So, guide us through, how do we tell a roof tile from just a bit of slaty stone?
The fact that there's a hole to attach it to the roof is really the only way you can tell.
A nice cylindrical hole, which couldn't really have been formed naturally, I think.
I think the straightness and stuff and the flatness helped.
Yeah.
And the fact it's such a big spit, but obviously if there was no hole there, we would be struggling.
We did also just find not too long ago another clay pipe. We found a bit of oyster shell. There was some that had come out before.
Favorite snack of people historically, not as not quite the refined treat it is these days.
And we did have in this corner here, it was kind of crumbled up, starting to fall apart, but very much like a brick.
Yeah.
Which sounds funny to say now, but we're like, we found a brick. But we were excited for that. So you can see like
we thought it could just be a red soil.
Very, very clear brick there.
Yes.
Yeah.
To start with, we thought could be just very hard clay.
Yeah.
So,
because we could break it with our hands, but then we saw the right angle on it there.
And there were some parts that were still firm.
So a real sense that you've got lots of building materials here.
It's just really just started appearing in this layer. Because we've also had all of these rocks starting to appear, like these big ones. I think you were saying, because this one here, it looks to be that same material, which is, I think you're saying, isn't natural to the area.
So what they've been finding in test pit 6 is that some of the stones in the soil here that they're digging up match the very beautiful building stones here. And what's quite useful is you might be able to see above the doorway there is the date when this was built, AD 1856, 1856, which is rather useful when you're dating when these building materials might have entered the ground.
Very much so.
And just guide us through the rough process. So people are digging and loosening the soil here, and then there's a team in the background doing fantastic work, some of the most vital work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, we've all had turns of it. The mattocking been so hard, we kind of cycle through as we get tired. But yeah, then they're sitting and pulling out fines.
So we've been going down in 10 centimetre layers and keeping each layer separate, sieving it. Any fines that come from that layer get kept in a separate bag, and then they're gone off to the experts to determine if they are anything significant. And I'm afraid we kind of run out a little bit of time here. So the last round level should have been at 50 centimetres, but unfortunately we only got to about 45. But what we are going to do is we're going to continue down in that corner there because it's much softer in that area, and it's where we think there might have been a poster. So we're going to carry on down there, and we've got about half an hour left, I think, of digging, and then it all has to go back in again.
All has to go back in again. Russell, any favourite find so far?
Well, I quite like the sheep's bone, actually. I know it was only a sheep, but well, it's probably a good idea it wasn't human, but no, the sheep's leg bone, I think it was. I think it was quite interesting.
Tells us what they were eating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unless a bigger animal was eating the sheep, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Any favourite find from you?
Was the tile.
The tile. Excellent. What colour was it? Is it nice coloured tile? No?
It's grayish, muddyish, because we haven't washed it yet.
Well, all the better that you spotted it then, if it's not so colourful. So, fantastic team here. Thank you to everyone at Test Pit 6. We wish you well in your remaining moments, and who knows what you might find as you delve down deeper into that far core. And I will push to find more about your finds. Hopefully, we'll be joined in a moment back at Find Cam to find out more. But thank you to Test Pit 6. Right. We will wander back. Maybe we'll be back at Test Pit 6. Who knows? We wind our way back to the studio. And as we come back, hopefully you're still with us and the connection was fine. If there were problems, do let us know in the chat. I can also, while I'm on top of the wall, just pivot round. We've got another test pit in the corner back there. It looks like they've already begun backfilling because they have already got down to as far as they're going to go. So we'll come back. Hello again. And before I say much, I will take that out of there. Thank you for joining us there for our little roving tour. Hopefully the connection was fine. Any issues, we do apologise, but do let us know in the chat. And we always love to hear where you are joining us from as well. So do let us know in the chat and in the comments where you're joining us from. We're going to try again to play that film that we tried to play a few moments ago that tells you a little bit about our Geopark in the Dark event. Let's give that a go, and hopefully I can get my breath back from running through people's gardens.
This evening, we are at Bradgate Park for our Geopark in the Dark event. Our Geopark in the Dark event is a chance for us to tell the amazing story of Charnwood Forest's globally important fossils and geology. So we're inviting the people from across the city and the county to come to Bradgate Park and discover that amazing story in the most fantastic possible way. In the 1950s.
Hello everyone, I do apologise for the technical issues we are having here. I don't know why, but I can't get that video to play. You seem to be, I don't know if you're getting the audio, but you seem to be getting a picture of a test pit from the end of the Young Archaeologists Club. I think it might be blocking the way. I'm going to try one more time. Let's see what happens.
This evening, we are at Bradgate Park for our Geopark in the Dark event. Our Geopark in the Dark event is a chance for us to tell the amazing story of Charnwood Forest's globally important fossils and geology. So we're inviting the people from across the city and the county to come to Bradgate Park and discover that amazing story in the most fantastic part. In the 1950s, two local schoolchildren were here within Charnwood Forest and they discovered a fossil that completely rewrote global history. We found out that the first complex animal life on Earth was here within Charnwood Forest over 500 million years ago. Most of the people in the city and the county do not understand that they have this amazing story under their feet. And so we're really excited to be able to tell that story in the most brilliant and illuminating way possible. And we're here thanks to all the players of the National Lottery who have enabled the National Lottery Heritage Fund to fund us to put this amazing event on for everybody.
Oh, it's a fantastic evening. It's so nice to see it, the immersive experience, and to be able to really bring to life the history. It was just wonderful, and I think it's really good for all ages. Yeah, it was really fascinating just to read about sort of where the fossils have been found, and obviously also bringing it to life with the sculptures as well. That just kind of gave it an extra depth.
I've got to say, the light show was amazing. It really brought the ruins to life. It was really interesting seeing the fossils made up into such large sizes and projected up onto the walls of the ruins.
All the work the children had done as well, set out like a seedbed so that you could see what it might have looked like.
Yeah, it's nothing that I've really seen before, and it's really changed the way that I see Bradgate Park.
The light show was absolutely fantastic. It just, it brought it all to life, and to realise that you're standing on the ground that 60 million years ago, there was fossils right through its history, to Lady Jane Grey and to the present day, that we enjoy the park.
Definitely come down and see it. It was incredible seeing all of the lights and everything, and all of the fossils set out, and all the information about how everything was found. It was just incredible all round.
That was Geopark in the dark. We always get asked, will you do it again? And hopefully one day we will do Geopark in the dark with our dear friends at Bradgate Park Trust again. So on that, if you of course don't want to miss that, you need to make sure that you're always up to date with Charnwood Forest Geopark. You can always find out more at charnwoodforest.org and sign up to our newsletter. If you go to the bottom of every single page on that website, there's the button to join our newsletter, which is sent out once a month. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and Threads, where you can stay up to date on everything that's happening and all the news of the new announcements and everything special, whether it's about geology or archaeology, biodiversity, arts and culture. It's all there in Charnwood Forest Geopark. Now, I am hoping in a few moments some experts will bring me and you, more importantly, some finds to show you. We've even got a special finds cam set up so that we can pop them under the camera and show you live and describe things and what they might mean for our understanding of Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. Thank you again to our friends at Test Pit 6 just behind me, who we went to see very briefly. And I hope you were able to hear the video from the Young Archaeologists Club earlier on. We might play that again in a moment. But another test pit that has been dug here in Woodhouse Eaves is over Test Pit 4, which is near Garrett's Hay. This is a building that was used to house military officers during and just after the Second World War. But they've managed to get down really deep into the soil. They've probably gone deeper than anyone else this weekend. And earlier today, I went to have a chat to them about their discoveries, what they were finding, and what was important to them about their dig at Test Pit 4. So we're at lovely Test Pit 4 with James and Leif. You have probably got down further than anyone else. It's just at the start of the Sunday. Tell us a bit about what you found so far.
Well, we're going into context 6. So far we found quite a lot of pottery, clay pottery, some couple of shards of medieval pottery as well, which has possibly been quite interesting. And as we go into context 6, we're starting to find some evidence of rubble, some mortar, possibly some kind of worked piece of stone, and also we found some sheep bones as well, sheep's tooth. So yeah, evidence of something happening here. We're not quite sure what it is.
And Leif, any favourite finds so far?
I think we've had a few metal finds which are always nice, so nails and a little wood tack. And also the sheep's teeth are very interesting, especially because they appear to have come from the same jaw, but the sandy soil has eroded away the bone, so we're just left with the teeth.
And how is the ground going? As I say, you're down to context 6, so you're, what does that mean, 60 or 70 centimetres down? 60 centimetres? 60, yeah. And how's the ground working for you now?
It's still pretty good. It's quite sandy still. It's getting a bit harder, so we anticipate it's going to get more difficult to dig, but it's still very nice at the moment.
And you've also, it got to be said, you've got a very clean test pit walls. Could you run us through your stratigraphy, because it's quite a nice set of layers you've got? Just give us, for everyone who's watching, run us from top to bottom of some of the things you found as you've gone down.
Yeah, so the topsoil I think is about here or so. It wasn't that particularly deep. Then maybe the first contact, we didn't find too much in the first contact, surprisingly. Some clay, pot shards and so on. And then as we moved into the subsoil at context 2 down to context 5 and 6, you can start seeing the change in the coloration and the texture of the soil. It's still remaining quite loamy and sandy. And again, as we go down, we're starting to find a lot more shards of pottery, a few bits of glass, as Leif said, some bits of nails, and we seem to be hitting some kind of rubble there now. So yeah, it's going to get interesting.
Well, hopefully a little bit later we'll find out more. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back live to Woodhouse Community Hall in the lovely village of Woodhouse, in the parish of Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. We're just going to show you some lovely new discoveries that have been made this weekend. If we come across slightly, I have to wave at the camera like this and then it starts moving around. Here we go. There we go. Will.
Hello.
Explain to us what element of the digs you're leading on today.
So I've had sort of two roles today, but my main role has been looking after all of the artifacts and finds that the volunteers have been excavating from the test pits. So both people from Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, all of their material has been gathered up by roving finds collectors and brought to us here at the Woodhouse Community Hall, where I've had a team of fantastic volunteers who've spent the last 2 days sorting through that material, cleaning it up. And now it's all, I've had a look through what they've done, and we have an idea of some of the very preliminary results based on the materials that we're starting to see coming out the pits.
Right, and Will has brought some goodies along for us. So at this point, I'm going to put Finds Cam into the stream. And what we might do is make that a bit bigger at certain points, but you'll still be able to hear us. So pop stuff into the shadows, not helping, but
start with that.
That's beautiful. We can
just about visible. I'm not sure which bit.
There we go. We can see that.
Excellent.
Now you should be able to see that that is a lovely flint, clear as day, has been worked, and we've got a second one there. So tell us where these have come from, Will.
So these are both from Test Pit 22, which means they're from Woodhouse Eaves. I'm not sure which part of the village they are on.
So that is on Bird Hill Road, for those of you. It's about halfway along Bird Hill Road, with on the side that has Windmill Hill on it.
Excellent. Yes. So these are both prehistoric worked flints, but more exciting than that, they are both actually flint tools. So on previous digs, we have found flint flakes, so bits of byproduct from the manufacture of flint tools, but these bits are actually tools themselves. So it's probably quite hard to see, but this long one here is a flint blade, and you definitely won't be able to see it, but along the edge, they've chipped little chips out of the edge to give it basically a serrated edge for cutting with. And it's got a lovely sort of flat triangular cross section. It is snapped in half here, so it would have been potentially much longer than the bit we have now. And then the other bit we're less confident about, but we're pretty sure that it is a scraper, which is a tool which, as its name suggests, is used in scraping activities. They're often associated with sort of cleaning animal hides, those sorts of activities.
And what do you this long edge? Do we have a sense of what that might have been used for? I mean, the serrated edge makes one instantly think of a steak knife.
Yeah, so it's definitely some kind of cutting tool. We sometimes see things like these that might be mounted on sticks as basically knives, things like that. So we're definitely in that sort of realm.
Excellent. So that was Test Pit 22. That's along Bird Hill Road, but we've got some more goodies for you. Apologies that we set this up and the lighting was beautiful, and then of course the sun has moved. Such is nature, and you've got this lovely mottled light now, which isn't the best for seeing these finds, but we do what we can. Now we are going over to Test Pit 26 with Will's finds now. 26 is again in Woodhouse Eaves. It's just off Patterson Drive, so we're down quite close to the bus stop at the edge of Maplewell Road and Main Street, for those that know their Woodhouse Eaves geography. I'm going to make that Finds Cam screen a little bit bigger, so hopefully everyone at home can see a little better. Oh, we can see some pottery with a bit of beautiful patterning.
Yes, so hopefully you can see we've got a lovely yellow glazed pottery with these sort of black swirls on the top, which are incredibly reminiscent of the top of a Bakewell tart, if you can picture it. And this is a kind of pottery we refer to as Staffordshire slipware, which the name sort of tells you where it's been produced. And this is, we're looking at possibly sort of 17th into 18th century dwelling in the village now. But the same test pit has also produced from the same layer this sort of undecorated, much plainer sherd of pottery, which is actually of medieval origin. So a good sort of 300 to 400 years earlier than our Staffordshire slipware. The surface of the pottery, I don't know if you can see, it's quite rough, and it's been very abraded and worn, which suggests that it has been sort of knocking around in the ground for quite some time, maybe being disturbed by gardening and other kinds of activities, which is how it's come to be mingled in alongside the much later pottery. And that's caused that sort of damage. But it's really good evidence that we are starting to see those sort of early origins of the village within the pottery groups.
There we go. So we're talking for the brighter pattern stuff, what, about 300 years ago?
3 to 4, yeah.
And then this 300 years even before that. So another fantastic example. We were thinking before earlier on the live stream about how you might think that a small test pit, you'd have to be really very lucky to find something, and yet every test pit's finding something, and in many layers as we go down.
And we currently have medieval pottery recorded from 7 of our 35 excavated test pits, which should be 20% exactly. And that's just from the stuff we've had a good look at. We may find later on when we do more in-depth analysis that even more are producing that kind of material.
And that is, of course, a good point to remind all our diggers. If you are watching this live and you haven't yet sent us your find bags, send them soon so they can be included. Will's got something in a special bag now. This looks like it's going to be very, very special. Very small. Well, you can see there we've got a Geopark pen for scale to give you an idea. I will blow that up, but you probably won't see much more than a half circle shape. So tell us a bit more, Will.
So what we have here is one of the several coins we have found as part of the dig, but this is by far the oldest coin we found. So we've got a good collection of early 2000s 20p's and some 1940 sixpences, but this is actually we currently think, and it's not been looked at by a coin expert, so this may change, but we currently believe this to be an early medieval coin. There was some talk of it possibly being late Roman, but we're more leaning on that early medieval side of things. And as you can see, it's a lovely half circle, and that's because we believe it's been deliberately cut in half, which was a medieval practice of essentially splitting your coin into 2 halves to make change, as it were. So instead of having 1 penny, you'd have 2 half pennies.
Imagine that if you could, if you only needed to pay £2.50 and you could just rip a £5 note in half. Fantastic fight. You said early medieval. Just for everyone at home, in terms of numbers, when would that be?
So as I say, I'm not a coin expert, but we're probably looking around the 10 to 1100s is what we're imagining at the moment. The detail on it is very worn, but it's possible when we get it back to our lab, we can clean it up slightly, get it under a microscope, and then we might be able to give you an idea of a king or something on there that will tell us when it was produced.
There we go. And of course, if there is any fabulous news on that coin, we might get that when we have some presentations later in the year to sum up everything that's been found. Thank you, Will. What a fantastic find. We've got one more, and then I can see Dr. Susan Kilby at Test Pit 12 is back ready to come in, but we're going to have one more thing here. So again, we are going to make that a little bit bigger so the people at home can see. What are we looking at here, Will?
So this is more just a sort of a fun, quirky little find. So this is actually a rabbit bone. And normally I wouldn't get very excited by finding a rabbit bone because they burrow into the ground. And every time we've ever done test pitting, a few test pits have produced rabbit bones. But what's different about this one is it actually, and you won't be able to see this, unfortunately, it has little cut marks on it. So we can tell that this was not a wild rabbit. I don't know if this will focus, but there's this black line across it just there. Yeah,
just about bringing that into the shot.
And it's also got some other lines across the end as well, which are where knife marks, essentially. So that is telling us that this wasn't a wild rabbit that has just happened to dig its way into our pit, but this is actually someone's dinner waste. So it's just nice to be able to say that this rabbit is more archaeological than just naturally occurring.
Yes, not a pet on this occasion.
We certainly hope not.
Right, and just before we will go to Test Pit 12 live in a moment, but I just want to ask, earlier on in the stream, we showed some of the discoveries, Karenza took us through some of the discoveries that have been made at the Young Archaeologists Club test pits. I notice you're wearing a YAC hat. I'm just moving around here to tease the camera around to look at Will properly. Or if you come maybe this way, just tell us, if anyone knows a young person who wants to get involved, how can they get involved in the YAC?
Yeah, brilliant. So we are the Leicestershire branch of the Young Archaeologists Club, which is a national organisation with lots of local branches. So the first thing to do if you want to be involved is to check where your nearest branch is, which you can do on the YAC website. But it is a group for children aged between 8 and 16, where we meet once a month and we take them to do archaeological activities to basically introduce them to archaeology. So, for example, today we've been digging some test pits. Previously, we've been out at other excavations and also done sessions based in our labs looking at animal bones and pottery and those sorts of things. So if you are interested or know anyone who is, I would suggest looking on the YAC website, where you can find details about what the club does and where you can find a local branch.
And if you join, you get a very fetching hat like this.
You do indeed, yes.
Do you need a more reason to join? Well, you can come and make fantastic finds like they have today, including that medieval pot and that lovely bit of pipe and everything. Thank you again to Will. Right. Maybe you and your colleagues might even come and show us a bit more in a bit. Yes. But at that point, we will let Will get on his way, because he's a very, very busy man, especially at this moment. Thank you again. And we are going to go live to Test Pit 12. Dr. Kilby, how are you?
Hi, Jack. Yeah, all good, thank you. So we just thought we'd jump in with you very briefly to give you an update, because we've uncovered another layer of bricks, and what they show us is really quite interesting. So let me take you into our test pit again. I'm hoping that you can see, and if we come around a little bit further, you can actually see those bricks starting to curve. So we thought we'd got a building, but actually, let's zoom out for you there. What we actually now think we have is a well with a slate capstone. So that's the point at which, for us at least, we are going to leave it. We've had a fantastic dig here at Test Pit 12, but we're about to start filling in. But we thought you might like to know the latest in terms of what we think this structure is.
Thank you very much, Susan. Any out of interest, bricks can often be very diagnostic, and you can find the manufacturer and therefore dates. Any names from the bricks? Any names within? Do the bricks have frogs? There's a good technical word for people at home. These are the voids that are cut out, or indentations.
No, we don't have any names. I'm taking you to Crystal, who's holding a big chunk of brick with a bit of mortar on the top. We've got no frog on this brick at all. In fact, this brick has been recorded so that the archaeologists can have a think about what that might tell us. But most of the bricks that we're looking at, apart from the one that Crystal's currently holding, are still in situ. We've not taken any of them out. None of them are loose enough to take out, and so at this stage it's quite hard to tell. But we still think, possibly kind of Victorian, something of that order.
There we go. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much to everyone at Test Pit 12 for bringing us that other live update. We look forward to hearing more about what's discovered. How long have you got left before you need to start backfilling?
We're going to start backfilling now, actually. So we've got. Let's show you our spoil heap, which Ash is sitting on top of. I hope you can see that. And yeah, we've got to put all of this back now into, it feels like an awful lot of soil going back into what feels like quite a tiny hole, but wish us luck as we start to backfill.
Thank you so much, Susan, and everyone at Test Pit 12. Good luck with the backfilling, and we look forward to hearing more about what was discovered as it gets cleaned up. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack. See you. Bye.
That was Test Pit 12. Thank you to the team there for everything they're doing. Now you might be thinking, isn't it just the moment when things get interesting and they're about to fill it in? But you've got to remember, everyone, this was always planned to be only one weekend. And of course, we have to return people's gardens back to a good state. So we have to give plenty of time to backfill all of those layers and add the turf back on top so people's gardens look lovely. In general, if that's all replaced well, you can hardly tell that there was a test pit dug in the first place. So if you're thinking, should I have a test pit dug in future, then absolutely go for it. It hardly makes a blemish on your lawn. And the other thing to remember is that if you follow along to charnwoodforest.org and our newsletter and social media, if there are ever any further opportunities, you'll be the first to know that you can join us and sign up. Thank you to David, who's joining us live from Markfield. Maybe we'll have a community archaeological dig in Markfield one day. So we saw there some of the finds from live from Woodhouse Eaves in Test Pit 12, where they've clearly got a structure. Susan thinking perhaps it might be a well or something else. Got bricks and slate involved, probably local stone. And we also saw Will there from Will works for the University of Leicester Archaeological Services, or ULAS, and he also supports the fantastic work of the Young Archaeologist Club in Leicestershire. And do look them up if you'd like to get involved. While we've been live, I have been sent a video from Test Pit 11. Test Pit 11 is actually not far from Test Pit 12, where we were joining Dr. Susan Kilby a few moments ago. Test Pit 11 is in the front garden of a house just over the road of Main Street from the Old Bull's Head pub. And I've been sent a video. I have no idea what is in this video, what it says, what it reveals, but I've been sent it by a trusted colleague. So we'll play it and you'll be discovering things as quickly as I do.
I'm gonna film you now.
This brick is sort of the end piece, but
Yeah.
we've got lines on each side, but
Yeah.
it's not got a prog. Where's your Tudor one? Is that in a...
Oh, it's in one of the bags over
it's
there.
A bag
it's one of the
one, yeah.
context.
Okay.
This is the very crude, friable type of brick,
Yeah.
which you can see is weak, but
Yeah.
it's got a lot of inclusions in it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a nice roof tile here. The rims on.
Oh yes, yeah.
There we go. This is a concretion.
A concretion.
This is a horrible
there we go.
lump.
Oh yes.
With it's very
Yeah,
heavy and
it's
very
got
hard.
All sorts in there. I think bits of iron and yeah.
This is the charcoal layer that Gary got from not far above.
It's about there.
There, yeah,
Okay.
above where the...
So where you've got that wall line,
Well, we've got
the jawbone.
The beginning of this particular complex.
Yeah, on the inside. In
Mhm.
fact, you can get the smellathon. You got smellathon on your phone?
I haven't, but I can smell it actually. I can smell
Smell the burn.
when
it first came out, it
Yeah,
was
really obvious.
It
Yeah.
had that sort of slightly sour,
Yeah.
burny smell. Oh, this is the Neolithic hand axe. Don't put a scale on it. Yeah, more glass, some very fine glass as well. We've been getting throughout.
Good.
So, obviously
nice
fine
snail
dining this
shells,
place here
yeah.
before it burned out.
Yeah, but that wall's very interesting, isn't it? And
Well,
all, as you say, all
that
of
is
the,
the star find.
yeah, and that interesting jawbone in the corner
Yeah,
there.
we
as
have
well.
had
We've got a boar
bones
tusk as
before,
well.
haven't we? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Goodness.
Tusk as well. Now that.
Do you know the other bit in the other
It's the second
context
one.
might have fit?
No, I think that was probably bovine or ovine.
Well, you remember I had that one which was more like a pointed boar tusk with
yeah.
the ribs on it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was very
sec-
small, wasn't it? Second context.
Yeah, second context. Yeah,
So
and
we're
it's all
at,
been bagged and set off, so don't worry.
That's great.
We're not throwing them away.
We're at Test Pit 11, aren't we here?
We
which
are,
is on Main Street, and we're at number 113.
113, yeah.
113.
Virtually
Trying to
opposite.
remember where they all are.
Literally opposite. Pub.
The head of the test pit.
That's mine.
That's
Very
your.
few, which I think he's holding up at
Yeah.
the moment.
Do you need me to do any of the yellow test bits at all?
Another bit of roof tile.
Yeah, good bit.
Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah, it's another bit of roof tile goes with that lot.
The roof pile.
I think it's definitely worth saving a few, the best examples of some
Yeah.
of the building material.
We've got them in those bags.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have. We've got a sample of each type.
Excellent.
I think this one, I'm not sure if we've got. There's 3 types. Thank you.
That level as well. Yeah, that's a honking great brick.
Yeah, these crude looking ones are the new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really get down to
No,
this.
right.
You get a bit crowded, don't you?
Thank you very much for letting me record you just talking about it, because I think that would be useful when we're with the analysis. So thank you.
That was Test Pit 11, where we had some excellent discussion there with the people on Test Pit 11. Again, that's opposite the Old Bull's Head on Main Street of Woodhouse Eaves. I'd found lots there, building stone and bricks and other things. And thank you to Dr. Julie Attard for bringing us that video. Fantastic news. There's been finds here all over the place. I don't think any pit has not found something. It's been absolutely fantastic, and everyone's been very, very positive about what's been found. Now, we've kept mentioning the Young Archaeologists Club, and I am not sure that our fantastic video played properly earlier on. So I'm going to play it again. Earlier today, I had a chat to Professor Carenza Lewis. We went over to test pits, I think it's 8 and 9, which are in the grassy area just the other side of the car park here at the Woodhouse Community Hall. These 2 test pits have been dug by children all weekend. They've been doing shifts of 4 hours, and they've been turning up a lot of fantastic finds. And as I said, I had a chat with Professor Carenza Lewis, and here's what she told me about their discoveries. Well, as the volunteers, over 100 who've joined us in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, we've had the Young Archaeologists Club joining us to dig 2 test pits here near the community hall in Woodhouse, and they've been finding some amazing things. Carenza, can you give us a guide through what the kids have been finding this weekend?
You know what, it's amazing. They've done really the sort of colour of the test pits there. It's really hard, solid stuff to dig through, so it's been quite a challenge for them. And although it looks like they haven't got terribly deep, they've actually found some really interesting stuff. So this test pit here, for example, has got it's got about 5 sherds, 6 sherds of medieval pottery there. So that suggests there's probably people living quite nearby. There's a really nice glazed bit there. You can see there you've got sort of green and yellow colour, and you can see hopefully the shininess of the glaze there. So that's going to be sort of dated, it's pre-Black Death probably, it's going to be dating sort of 1250, 1300, 1350, that sort of date. It's really important because actually we found very little medieval pottery from any of the test pits in Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, and actually we found relatively little medieval pottery in the other 3 villages we've dug in as well. So Stunton under Baden and Newtown Linford, we also found very little medieval pottery. So the Young Archaeologists Club has actually found probably more medieval pottery than most of the rest of the test pits put together. And that's helping us put a really interesting bit of the jigsaw puzzle of the past of these villages into place. Because we can see how any of the other test pits around here also produce medieval pottery. If we get a bit of a concentration of 2 or 3 test pits together producing medieval pottery, then that starts to suggest we've got a little nucleated village core here. We won't know that until we've looked at all of the pottery. It's a lovely pit as well. They've got a little bit of Staffordshire slipware. So that's going to be about 300 years later than this medieval pottery. But that's sort of stuff that gets bought at market. It's made in Staffordshire near Stoke-on-Trent. So it's not just a pot that's been bought for cooking or for utilitarian purposes. It's not. It's got effectively, you know, a product. That's something somebody would have been bought because they wanted a nice ornamental plate or mug or cup or bowl. It's quite thin, I think it's probably a drinking cup. They wanted that in their home, and it suggests that people with a little bit more money, the fact this medieval pottery is glazed, that suggests that's also a little bit more expensive than average. So a little bit of suggestion that this is a sort of posh bit of the medieval landscape here. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And they've done so well, the children, to get this much digging done. Young Archaeologists Club is a fantastic opportunity for people to get involved, sort of children between the ages of about 8 and 16 can come along, join the activities every week, and then occasionally get chances to take part in real digs like this.
That was Professor Carenza Lewis telling us about the amazing discoveries that have been found by the Young Archaeologists Club over the past few days of this weekend. Our third of the community archaeological digs. We've been to Newtown, Linford, Stanton and Barden, and then finishing off in very sunny now Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. I bet most of our diggers are very happy that it isn't quite as warm as it was during the heat wave in the recent weeks. Now, just before we bring you a little bit more news about some of the discoveries, we've got about 25 minutes left on the live stream. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the geology of Barden Hill, because anyone who's been up to the summit of Barden Hill, 278 metres above sea level, the highest summit in Charnwood Forest in Leicestershire and indeed in all of the National Forest, a very important place, a site of special scientific interest for both biological and geological reasons. But here's a little video that tells you more about the geology. So we're here today at Barden Hill, 278 metres above sea level, the highest point in Leicestershire and indeed Charnwood Forest. Behind us you can see Barden Hill Quarry itself produces around 15% of the UK's total annual output of aggregate because it's got beautiful hard rock geology. You can see at the bottom of the pit there, you can see darker greys and purple type rocks. These are Ediacaran age rocks, around 580, 600 million years old, which were deposited around volcanic edifices, around volcanic islands in the deep sea during that time. But you can see a sharp contrast to the top of the quarry. Those are Triassic rocks, sandstones and mudstones, deposited sometime around 200 to 250 million years ago by ephemeral periodic rivers going out into arid environments. And that V shape you can see there at the back of the quarry is an ancient valley formed sometime 200, 250 million years ago in the Triassic. You can see the valley that was incised by the rivers and then filled in by the sediments that were deposited there. Probably one of the best large-scale examples of that structure anywhere in the UK. And because there's a gap in time, we've got roughly 600 million year old rocks at the bottom, roughly 200 to 250 million year old rocks at the top, there's obviously a lot of geology missing, and therefore we call that surface an unconformity. And as I say, probably one of the nicest places in southern Britain to view a large-scale unconformity. But this site isn't just about geology. The geology, as everywhere in the world, underpins so much of the rest of our society and our environment. And this is also a really important site for biology. So tell us, Julie, a bit about the biodiversity in this area.
This area is particularly important for invertebrates and particularly for spiders, and as part of the Charnwood Forest Landscape Partnership Scheme, we've got a spider survey which is actually looking at sites like the one here at Barden for examples of some of the rarest spiders that we have in the East Midlands, and one in particular, the Charnwood spider, is the focus of one of the studies that we're carrying out.
So yes, whether you're interested in commercial geology and how that supports our economy and society, whether you want to trace back rivers of 250 million years in age, where you want to track down the elusive Charnwood spider, it's all here on Barden Hill. That was the summit of Barden Hill, and there's an extra special reason to tell you about that, because a few weeks ago we unveiled the new interpretation panel, thankfully renovated by our fantastic volunteers, with new information on that unconformity, the very ancient rocks. And did you know they even found a small bit of gold at Barden Hill? Fantastic mineralogical site too. But back to the main cause of today, archaeology, away from the geology. I'm grateful to be joined again by Professor Carenza Lewis, who's going to give us a bit of a summary of some of the amazing finds that have been made today and what they might mean for our changing understanding of the history of these two really beautiful and fantastic villages. Tell us more.
Okay, yeah, so it's going very well. We're obviously right at the end of it now, so starting to wrap up. I know there's been a few real highlights. I think one of the unexpected highlights has been the prehistoric flint that we found in Woodhouse Eaves in the test pit. Sort of, people can really see the map here, but sort of it's kind of in the highest above sea level bit of the village where we had a test pit. But actually nothing in that test pit apart from 3 pieces of beautiful flint that looks like it was struck yesterday, but it wasn't struck yesterday. It is at least Neolithic in origin, so it's at least 4,000 years old. It could quite likely be Mesolithic, which would put it back to 8,000 to 12,000 years old, and it might even be Upper Paleolithic. And we do have a little bit of evidence for Upper Paleolithic, late Upper Paleolithic, so that's late Old Stone Age, same dates as the sort of rock art, Creswell Crags, for example. We do have a little bit of evidence for that in this area, because at Bradgate Park there's been evidence of late Paleolithic flint work found, but we haven't found any of that around here. We've had 3 sherds, 3 flakes, 1 little broken blade, and one bit of flint that was used when someone has had a lump of flint. They've been taking blades off it, and blades are exactly what they sound like. They kind of look like blades of a knife, sharp cutting implements. They've been taking blades off it, this base chunk that you chip away at, and after a bit it gets out of shape, and then you take a few chunks out to straighten it up to give you a good working platform again. And the flakes that come up when you're tidying it up are called core rejuvenation, because they're rejuvenating, making young again the core. And we've got one of these flakes, and that looks also as if it's been notched out a little bit to make what is a sort of spoke shave. So a slightly semicircular indentation in it that somebody would have been used to have a wooden arrowhead shaft, for example, that they're trying to get nice and smooth. And you use the flint to literally kind of sand down really the shaft of your arrowhead, or possibly your spearhead, but this is really small, so it looks like an arrowhead. And so that is, not only have we got the blades for cutting things up, we've got this possible spoke shave. We can see the blade manufacturing being refined by this rejuvenation flake, and all of this could be late Upper Paleolithic, and it's certainly earlier prehistoric, so thousands and possibly tens of thousands of years old, and all in a test pit that literally went down about 30 centimeters and hit natural, had very little in it apart from these bits of prehistoric material. So one of our questions was, have we got any evidence for anything earlier than the medieval, than the first documentary records here at Woodhouse or Woodhouse Eaves? So we've answered that question. Yes, definitely. We've got a coin that just might be a Roman coin, a little coin that's sort of been cut in half, either Roman or medieval. They're a really uncommon find. We're going to wait, and it's very, very worn, so we can't see it very well. Wait till we get the experts onto that to identify that. And again, that was in a bit of the village, not far from the Paleolithic flakes, actually, sort of outside the main high street through the village. And then in the village at Woodhouse Eaves, we've got medieval pottery turning up at 1 or 2 sites. And even because we were in one of the gardens, they produced some finds they'd found from when they were putting up children's playing equipment, and got big chunks of pottery there as well. So we've got a little bit of core of activity there. And then at Woodhouse, which of course is kind of really small, so you wouldn't necessarily think Woodhouse would have as much going on, we've had some really interesting stuff coming up here as well. We've got several test pits around the area near the church have produced medieval pottery, and some of that medieval pottery has been glazed. Now, we found very little medieval pottery in most of the test pits in any of these Charnwood villages, suggesting the settlements are tiny and strung out maybe as little farmsteads or cottages along lanes rather than as in little clusters of settlement or anything we think of as a village. But certainly here at Woodhouse, it looks like there might have been a cluster of settlement around the site of the existing church. And the existing church is 15th century or so, but could easily have been on the site earlier. Some of that pottery may predate the current building of the church.
Earlier today, you talked, when we were at Test Pit 4, about the number of bits of medieval pottery that you find and how that changes your interpretation of the kind of intensity of people in the landscape. Do you want to remind everyone of that, of how you use these kind of rough numbers of discoveries to infer what was happening historically?
Yeah, absolutely. So based on finds from, well, field walking when we first started doing this, but we've now dug thousands of test pits. So we've got a sort of good idea of what is the number of sherds per 1 metre square test pit that you need to have to suggest that people are actually living nearby, rather than if it's just rubbish from a house or a settlement that might have been several hundred metres away that's been taken out to be spread on the fields with manure to sort of fertilise the fields. And our thresholds generally are, if you've just got one bit of medieval pottery, particularly if it's very worn around the edges, then it's probably pottery that's been taken out onto the fields and spread around for manuring. If you've got 2 to 4 bits, that's a bit more than you'd expect from manuring, but not quite as much as to say it's definitely settlement nearby. And if you've got 5 or more bits, and particularly if they're big or freshly broken, or that the edges aren't worn down, or if they're big sherds, then 5 or more, we'd definitely say you've got people living nearby. We could be pretty confident about that. So that's how that works.
And are we thinking that some of the test pits might have hit that threshold?
A couple of the ones from Woodhouse certainly have hit that threshold. A couple of the test pits near the church, including one of the ones dug by the Young Archaeologists Club, which is rather nice, but also the one that feels a long way away because you have to walk right around the back of the house, but actually is literally just the other side of the road by the church. And that's interesting because they're close together and they're in different plots of land. So it's not like somebody's bought a bag of medieval pottery and buried it in the garden sort of thing. It's that suggests we've got 2 separate sites, both of which have got medieval pottery, both in enough numbers to suggest we've got settlement immediately nearby. That's looking quite definite, I think. It's the best evidence we've had really for settlement actually in this village. And the other area that is interesting is down by the school lane, where there's again, early-ish building there. We've got quite a lot of 17th century pottery there, just by the cottage that's called Pestilence Cottage, where we've got some historical information for somebody who left the Great Plague of London in 1665 and came down here and then founded a school in the 17th century for poor boys in the area as a way of thanking God for sparing him from the plague. And we're finding pottery dating to that in a garden just near that cottage. So that's really nice. And then right at the other end of the village, we've got a really nice cluster of quite posh, expensive 17th, 18th century pottery, a lot of it coming in from Staffordshire, sort of really nice sort of yellow and dark brown glazed, glossy, decorated material, quite posh standard of living there. Last time I saw them, they were carrying on a bit deeper to see if they could find any earlier pottery there. And again, the house there was built in the 15th century, the 1400s, so it'd be nice to find some pottery from that and possibly even earlier.
And is there any sense from the medieval pottery of the use of these pots, or is it very difficult to tell?
No, absolutely, you can do. So sometimes you'll find pots that have got sooting on the outside, which tells you they were used for cooking. Generally, if they're thick-walled and they're not glazed, they often are either used for cooking or for storage. And that's in the medieval period. If they're glazed, sometimes they're fragments of jugs, which are sort of sitting on the table. So they're posh tableware rather than just that kind of utilitarian storage, where some pots, that are undecorated may have been pots that literally people were buying a product in. So you might have bought a pot of honey and you've got to put it in something, and they didn't have plastic bags then. Glass vessels were very expensive and definitely not the sort of thing you'd use for that sort of thing. So you'd either put it in a wooden vessel or in a pot. But then you also find fragments of thinner walled vessels that may be jugs, sometimes they're drinking cups. And certainly once you get into the 17th century, from about sort of 1680 onwards, where you've got the pottery manufacturers in Staffordshire, Stoke-on-Trent, the 5 towns known as the potteries, they're producing stuff in huge numbers, nicely glazed stuff. And you find thin walled bits of that. And they are things like drinking cups and plates. Sometimes you find really nice decorated plates, and sometimes they're even made as objects to commemorate things like engagements or weddings or the birth of a child, and people would commission an individual plate like this. Next time you're in a museum, have a look. Doncaster Museum used to have a brilliant display of this. But next time you're in a museum that's got pottery in it, see if you can find any of this sort of decorative slipware. But yes, so some of it is ornamental and people are buying it to show off. It's a bit like the willow pattern stuff. You could eat off it. Again, that's Victorian. Some of it's just ordinary eating plates, but sometimes you get really quite ornamental decorative pieces. So yeah, you can sometimes tell what is being used for.
And just a reminder for people at home, all these fantastic finds, some of them have been washed, many more will be washed over the coming weeks. But what will happen to all these fantastic finds and the information that is yielded from these discoveries?
Yeah, well, as you know, this is we're at Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves this weekend. This is the third of 3 projects that the Geopark has been funding with National Lottery Heritage Fund money that we've been doing since the beginning of May. So Newtown Linford, where we were at the beginning of May, all the finds have been washed and identified and catalogued, but we haven't yet pulled together the report kind of making sense of all of that. From Stanton under Baden, where we were in the middle of May, that process of cataloguing all the finds and identifying them is still underway. These finds, as you say, some of them have been washed, not all of them, and some of them are still possibly just coming out of the ground, though they should have finished digging by now. Those will be washed and catalogued, and then in the autumn we will do a report on each site and then do a big sort of overview, well, kind of what's it all telling us together, all the work done in all of these villages. And then later in the autumn, in November, perhaps into December, we'll have a talk in each of the villages, kind of looking at the bigger picture, giving people a chance to remember the lovely warm sunny days that they spent digging, and we've been really lucky with the weather, I must say, on all 3 of them actually. So everyone can remember the lovely warm sunny days digging and the run up to Christmas, and then we'll be able to show exactly what date all of the finds are, how it sits in the map. So we'll be basically taking all those individual pieces of the jigsaw puzzle and putting them together, and we'll then be able to see the bigger picture. And we're also hoping, there's a lot of interest in setting up a sort of Charnwood Forest archaeological group as part of the Leicestershire field workers, and it'd be fantastic if those people, all of whom will now have had experience doing test pit digging, would be able to carry on and perhaps in the future find more of those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle to fill in the gaps.
Fantastic. So just remember, if you want to find out more about those, especially those fantastic talks that will bring those stories to life, to find out more about those, make sure you signed up to the Charnwood Forest Geopark newsletter at charnwoodforest.org, and also follow our social media. We will keep you posted to find out more about these fantastic finds. Thank you again.
Right, I'll go to the upsum, because now what we'll do is we'll gather in the village hall and everyone will tell us what they found. We'll go through all 35 test bits, but we have to keep everyone tightly to time. Otherwise, we'll be there forever. But that will give us the latest story of what the people digging the test bits, because they know that test bit better than anybody else, what they have found. So I better go.
Superb. Thank you again, Professor Carenza Lewis. There we go, Professor Carenza Lewis. I'm just beckoning to a colleague who's being you're absolutely fine to carry on, Helen. You're out of shot. Thank you again to Carenza, who's got to zoom off because all of the volunteers are going to be joining them together with, of course, a very well-deserved slice of cake at the Woodhouse Eaves Village Hall now. And they will be able to learn a little bit more about what each other has been finding. But if you need to find out more, go to charnwoodforest.org. We'll be back in a moment with more news. we go. Thank you to everyone who's been joining us live here from Woodhouse Community Hall for these archaeological digs across the entire parish. I think some nearly 35 test pits have been dug across the two villages this weekend with the help of many, many volunteers. I can see something in the hello to Graham, who's joining us from Corn, a very lovely village in Charnwood Forest. You are most welcome. Always let us know where you're joining us from today. We love to hear it, both local people and people from all around the world. Today is a great example of how geoparks are not just about geology, but everything that makes them so special. And our history here in Charnwood Forest is very, very important. Now, to finish up as we are getting to the end of our live stream, I just wanted to remind you that we have a big aspiration here in Charnwood Forest to bring a new international designation to this area that has so long missed out. It missed out on National Park. It missed out on Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. But we have applied last November to become a UNESCO Global Geopark. There are currently around 240 UNESCO Global Geoparks in 51 different countries around the world, and they are one of the 3 designations, area-based designations, that UNESCO gives to areas in that alongside the World Heritage Sites and the Biosphere Reserves. And with internationally significant geology like we have here, we thought that it was right that this was the designation for us. Now, later in the month, we'll be joined by 2 evaluators who will be looking at what we do in Charnwood Forest, not just at our amazing rocks, but the partnerships that we build, our education work, our volunteering. So who knows, if you might see us out there meeting with the evaluators at sites around Charnwood Forest later in July, give us a wave, come and say hello. It's so important that they see the support that we have from the communities and the community involvement in so many of our projects. All being well, they will hopefully write a positive report. That report will be seen by the Global Geopark Council in October of this year. And if the Global Geopark Council agree that we should be a geopark, they will put a recommendation forward, with the final vote being in April or May next year at the UNESCO Executive Board meeting, when, all being well, Charnwood Forest will become one of the world's newest UNESCO Global Geoparks, finally getting the national and international recognition that this area so richly deserves. And on that, as well as so many other things, if you'd like to find out more, go to charnwoodforest.org. We will keep you up to date. You might be thinking, well, why is Charnwood Forest of such geological importance? And here's a little clip from the BBC News at 10 a few years ago, about 2.5 years ago, telling you about one of the newest discoveries from Charnwood Forest.
A fossil representing the earliest known animal predator has been identified by UK scientists. The 560 million-year-old specimen was found in Charnwood Forest in Leicestershire. The outline of the 20-centimetre tall creature was imprinted on a long, sloping slab of quarry siltstone. It's probably the first example of an organism with a true skeleton, and because of its shape, scientists believe it's related to the group of species that today includes jellyfish. Researchers have named it Aurora Lumina Attenborough Eye, in honour of Sir David Attenborough.
That was Aurora Lumina Attenborough. Of course, I said 2 years ago. It was a bit longer ago than that. But one of our newest discoveries, the fossil of the oldest known cnidarian ever discovered, and also the oldest fossil of an animal predator ever discovered, found only a few miles from where we are here in Woodhouse. One of the many reasons why the rocks of Charnwood Forest are so important, and something we very much celebrate here. If you'd like to find out more about Aurora Lumina, you have a new opportunity. If you go to the lower car park at Beacon Hill Country Park and walk towards the cafe and go just the other side, you'll be able to find a new sculpture carved out of wood by the fantastic chainsaw artist Peter Ledbetter, bringing to life that very important fossil from 560 million years ago and explaining its connection to Sir David Attenborough. This is one of 5 new sculptures that have been unveiled celebrating the pre-Cambrian fossils of Charnwood Forest, and they are all linked together in a trail so that you can explore them all and delve deeper into the origins of animal life and how Charnwood Forest has been so important in the international understanding of where we as animals came from. Now, at that point, if we were next to the Houses of Parliament, we would be able to hear Big Ben chiming away because it's 3 o'clock. And at that point, we are going to leave you. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us live and everyone also who's watching on this recording. It will be available for some time on Facebook and forever on YouTube. Of course, if you have any questions, you can contact us at charnwoodforest.org and on our Contact Us page. But thank you for joining us, and we hope you will stay involved and maybe join us again for a future community archaeological dig, because certainly we have shown over the past 3 of these this summer that they are very much worth doing. And if the money can be raised, we would love to do them again. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely rest of your weekend.